Okay. Alright, you guys. I'm so excited for this. This will be a discussion, this workshop. It will be a little bit different from most of the workshops we've done because, or at least, it's different than a workshop I would lead. Basically, I'm just going to share stories from my life and how that relates. It's all, the theme is like womanhood, female empowerment. But I'm just going to tell you stories from my life. So hopefully you'll get to know me better, but also learn maybe some of the experiences that I have had in my life are similar to yours, or ones you will have. I will be asking a lot of questions, so this will not work if you don't participate. It will be much more interesting, and I hope that you feel like you can ask me questions, okay? Ask me anything. Okay, so it's about women's empowerment. Let's get started. Okay. So, I guess I'll start by saying I come from a different context, right? I come from the US. I think there's an idea in Nepal that men and women are treated equally in the US. It's just not exactly true. Okay? But it is different. It is a little bit different. Like more women have careers in the US. There's a little more equality between men and women, but it's not perfect by any means. No. But you know, things that have affected me in my life. So this is where I'm from. You see the picture in the bottom. I'm from Kansas. It's basically a state with a bunch of farmland. That's probably why you haven't heard of it. But that's home for me. And so when I'm giving my presentation, I'm speaking from like my home, which is different. You know actually a lot about it from movies and TV shows and what you hear from volunteers, but some of it is stereotypes, right? Do you know what stereotypes mean? Mm-hmm. Stereotypes is like a generalization that is sort of true but sort of not true, right? Like maybe one stereotype about, like if you were to talk about, there are a lot of stereotypes about Americans and, anyway, well, but I'm speaking from home, so, yeah. Another thing that has affected my experience as a woman is how tall I am. So in this picture, I have, this is a door, this is in Lower Mustang, and I'm standing next to a door. But I just put that in there because you can see, being tall as a woman does give me power, I would say, which, you know, I like, but it does intimidate men. It intimidates people, actually. That affects my experience as a woman, being so tall. I use it. Whatever strengths you have, I think you should use it, so figure out your strengths. But being tall has been a defining feature my entire life. Even when I was like in first grade, I was a head taller than everyone in my class. Like I've never not been the tallest person in my class. And at some points, I felt really awkward being really tall. Like in middle school, I was so much, like all the girls start growing, the boys stay short, right? And I was so tall, and I felt so awkward. So that's a big part of my life, of like trying to grow into actually feeling confident in my height and not hunching. Sometimes I do hunch, but I need to have a strong pose, right? Even though I'm often taller than people. And then I put a picture of me and my mom because, you know, I'm a daughter to my mom and dad. I'm a sister, a friend, like all these roles that I am because I'm a woman. Yeah, okay. So, I want to start with this. This is a picture that hangs in my dad's office. So, this goes from when I'm in first grade all the way up till 12th grade. And I'll zoom in on these pictures. Yes, this is a picture that hangs up in my dad's office. So this is my house in Kansas. That's me and my dad. And I look short, but I was taller than everyone in my class. So, I was really tall. So when I see this picture, I see someone who's very sure of themselves, very confident. Like as a little kid, I might be 10 years old, maybe 8 years old, I don't know. But I'm just standing like, yes! Like this is before puberty, I'm young, I'm still naive, but I'm somehow have this like, yes, I can do it, face the world. Okay, so this is the first picture. So this is again in front of my house. I've grown a lot, then I've grown some more, and I'm still excited, maybe too excited. And then, like, I start to see a change in myself. And maybe I'm not so sure. You can actually see it in my body language. It's like, I'm awkward, I don't feel comfortable in my body, with who I am at that moment. You can actually see that. But that's okay, we all go through that. But, I think actually that affects women much more than men, where like as we go through puberty, as we grow up, we really start to doubt ourselves. We don't feel comfortable with ourselves. We don't feel comfortable in our own skin. And I definitely felt that way. And you can see it. And this is me senior year of high school. So I kind of matured. And I'm almost as tall as my dad. So if you go, you can see, like I'm a little kid into, an adult woman. I have my dad sending me these pictures. But I didn't see this until recently. I didn't even know it hung up into his office. And I was just amazed to actually look at it and see, oh my gosh, it says something. I was like, where's my confident, like, young little self? Like, she was ready to handle the world, and how does that kind of change over time? Okay, so with that, I'm going to show you guys a video. That is very, very good. And then we'll kind of discuss it, and then... Uh-oh. There it is.
So a few years ago, I did something really brave, or some would say, really stupid. I ran for Congress. For years, I had existed safely behind the scenes in politics, as a fundraiser, as an organizer, but in my heart, I always wanted to run. The sitting congresswoman had been in my district since 1992. She had never lost a race, and no one had really even run against her in a Democratic primary. But in my mind, this was my way to make a difference, to disrupt the status quo. The polls, however, told a very different story. My pollsters told me that I was crazy to run, that there was no way that I could win. But I ran anyway. And in 2012, I became an upstart in a New York City congressional race. I swore I was going to win. I had the endorsement from the New York Daily News, the Wall Street Journal snapped pictures of me on Election Day, and CNBC called it one of the hottest races in the country. I raised money from everyone I knew, including Indian aunties that were just so happy an Indian girl was running. But on Election Day, the polls were right, and I only got 19% of the vote. and the same papers that said I was a rising political star now said I wasted $1.3 million on 6,321 votes. Don't do the math. It was humiliating. Now, before you get the wrong idea, this is not a talk about the importance of failure, nor is it about leaning in. I tell you the story of how I ran for Congress because I was 33 years old, and it was the first time in my entire life that I had done something that was truly brave, where I didn't worry about being perfect. And I'm not alone. So many women I talk to tell me that they gravitate towards careers and professions that they know they're going to be great in, that they know they're going to be perfect in. And it's no wonder why. Most girls are taught to avoid risk and failure. They're taught to smile pretty, play it safe, get all A's. Boys, on the other hand, are taught to play rough, swing high, crawl to the top of the monkey bars, and then just jump off, head first. And by the time they're adults, and whether they're negotiating a raise or even asking someone out on a date, they're habituated to take risk after risk. They're rewarded for it. It's often said in Silicon Valley, no one even takes you seriously unless you've had 2 failed startups. In other words, we're raising our girls to be perfect, and we're raising our boys to be brave.
Okay, we're raising our girls to be perfect, and we're raising our boys to be brave. Do you agree or disagree? Who disagrees? Who agrees? Okay, well, who disagrees? I want some people to share. Are you going to be brave? Are you going to be perfect? Are you going to be brave and share? Or worry about being perfect and not share?
Brave.
Okay, so, alright, so why do you disagree? Are girls taught to be brave, or are they taught they need to be perfect? Both? What are boys taught? Are they taught to be perfect as much as girls?
No.
Why not? Why do you say that? What's different? What's going on? What?
Perfect for what? Their habits or?
Perfect, like you get good grades, you look beautiful, everything about, like you're just,
Perfect.
You have to be perfect. You have to look a certain way, you have to act a certain way, you have to do everything right. Are boys taught to do that?
No.
No.
Yeah. Some of them are.
Some are. Do they have the same pressure?
No.
Why not?
It's taught like that. It's taught like that.
Maybe. Well, might be taught like that. It's also taught like that. Well, actually, so she comes from an Indian family. So her family's originally from India, but she's an American citizen, and she was running for politics in the U.S. It's like that in the U.S. too. That women, girls, feel this pressure. I'm not going to say anything if it's going to be wrong. I'm not going to raise my hand and share my idea because I'm afraid it's going to be wrong. I don't want to stand out for fear of looking dumb. Boys still have these fears, but maybe not as much. Maybe they don't care as much if they raise their hand and they look dumb, or ask a question and it's wrong, or give an answer. But somehow, as girls, we feel like, or women, we feel like, I'm going to look dumb, I'm not going to speak for fear it's going to be wrong. I don't want to stick out. And we're taught that it's bad. It's not like no one ever told you this, right? No one ever said this, like you shouldn't, like you have to be perfect. But it's small things, right? You learn it every day by how your teachers treat you, how your hostel managers treat you, how people treat women and girls. It's subtle things, right? And maybe even also the pressure that we put on ourselves. I felt this way.
Some people worry about our federal deficit, but I worry about our bravery deficit. Our economy, our society, we're just losing out because we're not raising our girls to be brave. The bravery deficit is why women are underrepresented in STEM, in C-suites, in boardrooms, in Congress, and pretty much everywhere you look. Psychologist Carol Dweck looked at how bright fifth graders handled an assignment that was too difficult for them. She found that bright girls were quick to give up. The higher the IQ, the more likely they were to give up. Bright boys, on the other hand, found the difficult material to be a challenge. They found it energizing. They were more likely to redouble their efforts. What's going on?
Yes. Okay, I'll get out of the way. So this example, she's talking about 5th grade, so grade 5. Boys and girls are given the same assignment, and it's too hard for them. They both can't do it. The girls, the smarter that they are, the better that they're doing at school, the more likely they are to give up on it quicker. They say, I'm not going to do this perfectly, so I'm not going to try it at all. The smart boys, they're given an assignment that's too hard for them. They can't do it. They work harder because they're not afraid that they don't know it, so they can't do it. They're not afraid of, okay, I'm not going to be perfect, so I'm not going to do it at all. They just try harder.
Well, at the 5th grade level, girls routinely outperform boys in every subject, including math and science. So it's not a question of ability. The difference is in how boys and girls approach a challenge. And it doesn't just end in 5th grade. An HP report found that men will apply for a job if they meet only 60% of the qualifications. But women? Women will apply only if they meet 100% of the qualifications. 100%. This study is usually invoked as evidence that, well, women need a little more confidence. But I think it's evidence that women have been socialized to aspire to perfection and they're overly cautious. And even when we're ambitious, even when we're leaning in, that socialization of perfection has caused us to take less risks in our careers. And so those 600,000 jobs that are open right now in computing and tech, women are being left behind. And it means our economy is being left behind on all the innovation and problems women would solve if they were socialized to be brave instead of socialized to be perfect. So in 2012, I started a company to teach girls to code. And what I found is that by teaching them to code, I had socialized them to be brave. Coding, it's an endless process of trial and error, of trying to get the right command in the right place, with sometimes just a semicolon, making the difference between success and failure. Code breaks, and then it falls apart, and it often takes many, many tries till that magical moment when what you're trying to build comes to life. It requires perseverance. It requires imperfection. We immediately see in our program our girls' fear of not getting it right, of not being perfect. Every Girls Who Code teacher tells me the same story. During the first week, when the girls are learning how to code, a student will call her over and she'll say, I don't know what code to write. The teacher will look at her screen and she'll see a blank text editor. If she didn't know any better, she'll think that her student spent the past 20 minutes just staring at the screen. But if she presses undo a few times, she'll see that her student wrote code and then deleted it. She tried, she came close, but she didn't get it exactly right. Instead of showing the progress that she made, she rather showed nothing at all. Perfection or bust.
So what's going on there? What's going on?
girl is hiding her talent.
Hiding her talent, but what's she hiding?
She's hiding what she can. What she's hiding her quotes that she wrote.
If she had gotten it right, would she have hid it? No. So why is she hiding it?
She went wrong. Yeah, she's
There was
doing upright.
something wrong with it, and she would rather show her teacher nothing than to show her the code that she'd written because it wasn't exactly right. What do you think about that? You do that?
Yeah.
Well, what do you think about it? Yeah, why?
Because it would be like inside HCA.
Pardon, what would you say?
She would feel inside.
Yeah.
She wouldn't.
Get the right perfect answer.
Get the perfect answer? Why do we need to be perfect though? Why would we rather show nothing?
It turns out that our girls are really good at coding, but it's not enough just to teach them to code. My friend Lav Bree, who's a professor at the University of Columbia and teaches Intro to Java, tells me about his office hours with computer science students. When the guys are struggling with an assignment, they'll come in and they'll say, "Professor, there's something wrong with my code." The girls will come in and say, "Professor, there's something wrong with me." We have to begin to undo the socialization of perfection, but we gotta combine it with building a sisterhood that lets girls know that they are not alone. Because trying harder is not gonna fix a broken system. I can't tell you how many women tell me, "I'm afraid to raise my hand. I'm afraid to ask a question because I don't wanna be the only one who doesn't understand, the only one who's struggling." When we teach girls to be brave and we have a supportive network cheering them on, they will build incredible things. And I see this every day. Take, for instance, 2 of our high school students who built a game called Tampon Run. Yes, Tampon Run. To fight against the menstruation taboo and sexism in gaming. Or the Syrian refugee who dares show her love for her new country by building an app to help Americans get to the polls. Or a 16-year-old girl who built an algorithm to help detect whether a cancer is benign or malignant in the off chance that she can save her daddy's life because he has cancer. These are just 3 examples of thousands of girls who've been socialized to be imperfect, who've learned to keep trying, who've learned perseverance. And whether they become coders or the next Hillary Clinton or Beyonce, they will not defer their dreams. And those dreams have never been more important for our country. For the American economy, for any economy to grow, to truly innovate, we cannot leave behind half our population. We have to socialize our girls to be comfortable with imperfection, and we gotta do it now. We cannot wait for them to learn how to be brave like I did when I was 33 years old. We have to teach them to be brave in schools and early in their careers when it has the most potential to impact their lives and the lives of others. And we have to show them that they will be loved and accepted, not for being perfect, but for being courageous. And so I need each of you to tell every young woman you know, your sister, your niece, your employee, your colleague, to be comfortable with imperfection. Because when we teach girls to be imperfect and we help them leverage it, we will build a movement of young women who are brave and who will build a better world for themselves and for each and every one of us. Thank you.
Okay. So, let's say, okay, there's a lot of men in technology. There are a lot of men in medicine. What does that mean in terms of the services that they provide? Would a man write the game Tampon Run? No. It means that in any industry, if you don't have women represented, they don't have their voice, they can't speak to what women might need in terms of healthcare and how it might be different for women. Typically, all the scientific research on like the human body, it's all research on men's bodies. And women's bodies are different than men's bodies. And so actually, treatment for women is treatment for men, and it said, oh, it will work for women, we'll just make the dosage smaller. But actually, sometimes it doesn't work. And there are better ways to treat women's bodies. But if you don't have women's voices in the room, or women writing code, or women speaking up, or coming up with ideas, then you have a world that fits men, but doesn't work for women. And doesn't, like, even if you have women working in a bank, women can say, well, this is when women can go to the bank. Or women can speak like, this is how you target, if you're in business, this is how you get women to buy your product. They are a different market. They like this. You have products that are suited for women. You have healthcare that's suited for women. You have women leaders who can say, if you have women in government, you can say, women need these resources. We need women and their ideas. But, what did you think of the part where she said, women will apply to a job if they meet every single qualification? Like, okay, whatever, a job ad list, okay, you need to have a bachelor's degree, you need to have this many years of teaching experience, whatever, list all these things. Men will apply for a job if they meet 60% of the qualifications. What did you think of that? What does that say to you? What does it say? Says to me, women think, oh, they would never hire me if I don't meet every single qualification. And men say, I'll give it a try. If I apply and they don't call me, who cares? But maybe they will call me. Men take more risk, and they're rewarded for it. They're promoted more. They get more opportunities because they take more risks. I'm saying this so we can take more risks too. Not to be depressing. Okay, now I'm going to kind of talk about my life. So, what do you like about being a girl or a woman? What do you like about it? What do you like? Shout out things. What specifically do you like? Okay, yeah, wearing makeup, being pretty, wearing fashion. What else? What do you like about being a girl or a woman, young woman? Okay, I'll share with you what I like. Meaningful friendships. I think women have much more meaningful relationships than men do. With women, like we bond with other women in a way that men can't. I actually think we have much more meaningful relationships. That is something I would not want to trade for the world. My relationships with other women. That's probably that's like everything for me. I like being beautiful. I like dressing up. That's more silly, but I like it. You know, we have the capacity to be moms. We get to be mothers. That's really special. It also causes a lot of problems. And maybe you don't even want to have to be a mom. Maybe you'd be like, oh, men could carry babies, that'd be perfect. But it is men don't have the same relationship with their children as women do. That mother-daughter bond is something really special. And we get to have that. It comes with all these other problems, but, you know, and we have the capacity for a lot of empathy and loving relationships. Men do too, but I think women are, I mean, this is a stereotype, but I think generally women are very loving and empathetic and caring, and that leads to really deep and meaningful relationships. I like being a daughter. I like that. Yeah. And I like flowers and dance moves. Yeah, so like these are two of my best friends. So really meaningful relationships with them. That's me and my mom. And that's me in a garden. I love flowers so much. I mean, men can like flowers too, but I love them so much. But no, I really have loved being a daughter. I have loved that. Okay. If you had the choice, would you change your sex at birth?
No.
So if you could wake up, you could be born again and be born a boy, would you do it?
No.
I was asked this question in high school, and I said yes, I would. Who would? Sumi would. Anyone else? Mina would. Yeah. Who else would? Sometimes. Anyone else? Anyone's thinking about it? No? Okay, why would you change your gender? The people who said raise their hand. Why would you?
Because boys they give more priority to boys than girls.
Yeah.
In relation, because
Yeah.
when we are born as a girl, they think like, no, we don't want girl, we want boy.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah, your family doesn't even value as much. That sucks.
Yeah.
What else?
Boys got more freedom than girls. Like girls have got to do, like they have to stick in rooms, but boys they don't.
Yeah, girls have to stay at home. Girls have to be back by 6 o'clock. Boys can go out. That's not fair.
Girls has a lot of problem than boys.
What problems?
Menstruation.
I know. Menstruation is like the worst. How come?
Yeah.
Literally the worst.
Yeah, it hurts a lot.
It hurts a lot.
And whenever you be in the school, oh my goodness, you feel so sad.
Yeah. No. Totally.
Yeah, and we can't play like boys does.
What do you mean?
Like in the hostel too, we can see if we play like in the boys, the other girls backbite and things like that. I don't like.
Yeah, girls they can backbite.
Yeah.
They can like talk about you behind their back. Girls can be mean.
Yeah.
It can be hard.
If we play with boys,
Oh,
like
and other
basketball.
places too. They
Yeah,
backbite.
so yeah.
And then boys don't want to play with girls. They're like, no, you're a girl, don't play. Anything else?
We can really walk like boys.
Yeah. Yeah.
Perfect. Has to be perfect.
So, when I was in high school, I was in a class, it was like this philosophy class, and my teacher, we went around the room, and he asked every single one of us, would we change our sex at birth, if we could? Not a single boy in the classroom said he would change his gender. Not a single one. Not a single boy said I want to be a girl. About a third of the girls said, yeah, I would choose to be a boy, including me. And I was really upset. I was really upset with my mom. I was really upset all day. I couldn't stop thinking about it. And I went home to my mom and I was crying. Oh, maybe I'll explain this and then. This is my mom. Here on my mom and I have had some kind of cool experiences, just the two of us. Where we're on a hike together, maybe a 5-day hike, just the two of us traveling along and stopping at little places and staying. And then here's right after we left Nepal, we're together. But so back in high school though, I had this class. I couldn't stop thinking about this question, and I was really upset. I was really, really upset, and I went crying. I was crying to my mom. I broke down. And I was like, Mom, I choose to be a boy. I told her what had happened in school. And I asked her the same question, would you? And she's like, she thought about it. And she said, honestly, Hillary, no. I have loved being a woman. I've loved being a mom. That was her experience. Actually, I'm not sure. I might still change. If I could. I think not now because I really feel empowered to be this fierce, brave woman and change the world and make women feel appreciated. But it was really helpful to hear my mom say how much she loved her being a woman and how much she loved being a mom. She worked before she had kids, and then she had me and my sister, and then she stayed home with us. And that was something that gave so much meaning to her own life. Okay. All right. What academic subjects are most challenging to you?
Science.
Science. Math. So who do we think is better at math and science? Who is the stereotype? I'm using this word again, stereotype. Often it's said men are better at science and math. I think that's dumb. First off, that's dumb. Okay. So in high school, I took 2 years of physics. One was mandatory, and then one was college level physics. The class was almost entirely boys, and then me and a couple other girls. The teacher was a woman though. That was good. I was terrified in this class. I didn't think I would get it. It was super hard. And then I realized when I asked a question, all the boys in the classroom had the exact same question. I didn't want to ask a question. I didn't want to look dumb. And finally I realized I want to understand the material. And actually when I ask a question, all the boys are listening too, and they're like, thanks for asking that question. Yeah, there's some things that maybe we're good at or we're not good at. But don't let stereotypes say, okay, I'm a girl, I'm bad at math. That's not true. You're a person. You have your own capabilities. There's the stereotype threat. Stereotype threat. This is a fancy term for a study that's been repeated over and over in psychology. So there's a lot of different ways this study has been done. Men and women are given a test. If the women are reminded that they're good at math, men and women of the equal level in math. Women, when they're reminded they're good at math, or they think they're just competing against other women, they perform just as good as men on the exam. Women, when they're reminded that they're women, actually perform worse. When they're reminded of the stereotype that women aren't as good at math, they perform worse. There's another version of this where it's Asian women. Asians are stereotyped to be good at math. Like, and then like a lot of Chinese Americans in the US are good at math. If the Chinese American women are reminded that they're Asian, they perform better. If they're reminded that they're women, they perform worse. And they do this like right before the test, they do it somehow. There's a lot of different versions of this study. There's one with women chess players. When they think they're only playing women, but they're actually secret playing men, maybe it's through some computer program, they perform just as well. When they think they're playing men, they actually perform worse. Because subconsciously, we believe certain myths. Like we're not as good, we're not as intelligent, we can't compete. When we actually tell ourselves those things right before we have to compete or perform, we actually do worse. It was really big for me. It was a big moment in my physics class when I had to work very hard in that class, and I didn't always get it, but it was a big moment. The boys were struggling too. We were all struggling together. And then when I realized I can do this. I'm scared of this subject. It does scare me. I don't know, maybe even feel like I fit in. I can do it. When do you feel stressed? When do you doubt yourself?
When we have to face, I think, a lot of people.
When you what?
Have to face a lot of people.
Okay, when you have to talk to an audience, yeah. When else do you feel stressed or doubt yourself? Maybe turn to a partner and share when you feel stressed or when you doubt yourself. Turn to someone and share. See, only about 2 people sharing. Everyone turn to a partner and share.
I think when we don't know any question what the teacher asked,
Uh-huh. Share with a partner. Share with a partner.
or to share with each other.
But you like to be
I know, speaking of, I will look
Who would like to share something they talked about? I'll share first and then you guys can share, okay? That is me! I'm in college now at Davidson where Peter Hess, Uncle Peter teaches. I'm in the library. I look kind of stressed. I probably am stressed. So I want to tell you a story from college. So college, bachelor's is 4 years. I met one of my best friends in college. Her name is Anna. We were put together as roommates freshman year, our first year of college. We didn't know each other, but we became best friends. She's one of my best friends still. A couple months into college, I went to her in our room and I said, I can't do it. I was like, I don't know what's going on with me. I'm so stressed. Nothing has changed. Like, I was in some really hard classes. I had this really hard chemistry class where I had maybe 5-7 hours of problem sets I had to do on Sunday. It was just so much. And I went to her and I said, I'm so stressed. And I started crying. I was like, I don't think I can do it. And the thing was, what I didn't understand was, it wasn't any different from last week or the week before or the week before. But for some reason, I couldn't handle it that day. Well, you know what happened the next day? I got my period. I'm serious. And I realized, oh my goodness, a situation that I could normally handle that was stressful. When our bodies are changing throughout the month, and actually we're really emotional right before we get our periods. Right then, I felt like I couldn't handle it. I really believed I couldn't handle it. But that was just my hormones. That was just the chemicals in my body changing, right? And I was frustrated. I was like, wow, being a woman, that's terrible. Men don't have to go through this. But I also felt, okay, with this knowledge, I have power. Like when I feel like I can't handle something, it might just be I'm in a bad mood, I need to take a shower, I need to go to bed and wake up tomorrow, and maybe I'll be able to handle it. And maybe it's just my hormones acting up. And even when I feel stressed sometimes, I think, how long? Has it been a month? Okay, maybe it's just me really stressed and I just need to go to bed and wake up tomorrow and it will be better. And you know what? Sometimes this is not related so much to that, but when I was younger, I remember at night sometimes getting really stressed. Kind of you've had a long day, a lot has happened, you're tired. And I remember maybe I was young, not too old, and going to my mom, really stressed about something. Maybe it's something small, maybe some homework thing, or I don't know. And going to my mom, and she said to me, go to bed, everything feels better in the morning. Go to bed, don't worry about it, don't think about it. The problem will not seem so big in the morning. That's still true, that is so true. Because throughout the day, so much happens to us. We get worn down, we're tired, and sometimes we just need to give ourselves a break. I do my best work in the mornings also. I do my most important work, my best work. If there's something important I need to do, I do not save it to the night, because I know there's so much that goes on during the day. I won't be as able to handle it as I am in the morning. I don't view that as a weakness. I view that as knowledge about myself, and I use it. So, I don't know, we can go back to this question. When do you feel stressed? When do you doubt yourself? Does anyone want to share? Maybe you're all thinking to yourself. What do you have to do to be heard, to be listened to be respected? Do you feel like you're listened to, heard, respected? Do you?
Sometimes.
Sometimes not. Tell me more. Sometimes not. I don't always feel heard. Even in my role here, sometimes I don't feel heard. And sometimes I wonder if it's even unconscious bias. Like, she's a woman. She doesn't have good ideas. I try to do things to counteract that. Try to have a strong presence. Be bold. So, I'm here. So, in college, I led these backpacking and canoeing trips. So we're about to get on the water here. And this is my crew. And on the other side, that's my co-TL Jack, co-trip leader Jack. So me and Jack, we're leading a bunch of college kids in the woods. They've given their lives to us, wisely or unwisely. But sometimes I felt like they didn't listen to me. I knew just as well as Jack what needed to be done. I was frustrated. And sometimes I have felt like I can't fully be myself I can't fully be myself if I want people's respect. There are certain parts of my personality that in this job, in many situations, I can't show because I really want people to take my opinion seriously, to listen to me. If I could fully be myself and be listened to, I would. But I really care to be listened to. So you know what that means? I'm a very silly person. Actually, you probably know this about me. I am silly. And I still let it show, but I would let it show a lot more if I would still be taken seriously. I take myself very seriously, but when I act silly, people don't think I take myself seriously, but I do. And this is an International Women's Day giving a speech. That was cool. That was go women. Okay. What makes you feel strong? When do you feel strong?